Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of the Son of a podcast. This episode will be not as heavy, but it probably will be heavy, seeing as that's the trend that we generally um, go towards. And today's quite a good one. Sorry. Today's quite a good one. I'm very excited for it. Today we are going to be talking about music and the effect that it's had on our lives. And yeah, I can't wait to talk about it. Is there anything you want to say before we start?
I am your father. No, it's exciting too. You did tell me a couple of days ago that this is what we were going to talk about.
Yeah.
But again, as usual, I have no idea what angle you want to give it. So, so this is what's called music and what?
Just music.
Okay,
And,
so it's
I
just
said music and
broadly.
how it makes us feel, but it's just music in general.
Excellent. Music and how it makes us feel. Well, this is a broad
Exactly.
subject. This might end up being a very, very long podcast indeed.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
So first off, I want to get the basic questions out of the way. For some people, if they don't know us and what music we listen to, what is your favorite genre? Let's start off with that. And then funnel down.
Okay, that's very broad.
It is.
Well, yes, I consider myself a rock guy.
Okay.
Anything that's rock. As you can see next to me, I have two
Yeah.
of my babies. And yes, I'm a rock man. Mostly, generally. I mean, I do like all kinds of music, but I'm a rock man. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I listen to most of the time. I listen to rock, but I mean, if you go into my playlist, I have like songs from completely different genres, one after another. So I listen to everything, but the one that I go towards the most is definitely rock. It's probably 60% of the songs in my playlist are in the rock field, rock genre.
Excellent.
And yeah.
I think we can both agree rock makes the world go around.
Yeah, it definitely does.
It does. All right. So I think having clarified that generalization, I think we have to both, at least in my case, make it very, very, very clear that music, in my life anyway, it's not just a thing that you listen to. For me, music is a deeply ingrained passion, and it runs through every single one of my pores, and every single day of my life. It's not just something that I listen to. It's the thing that makes me, really, apart from you and mommy.
Yeah, I was going to say that we're both quite passionate about music. You, especially, you're a lot more passionate because, well, you've been doing it for a lot more time, for a lot longer. You've made music. You've, yeah, like I said, you've been listening to music for probably
Longer than you.
Yeah, longer than I've been alive. So, you're a lot more passionate than me. But I'm starting to get into it. And at what age do you think you properly found the passion to music? How old were you, do you think?
I'm not really sure how old I was, but I can tell you the exact moment in my life when it happened.
Okay.
I was in Madrid. I think I must have been 7 or 8 years old. 7 or 8.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. There's always been music in my house. My dad bizarrely considered himself a musician, even though he wasn't. But his mom and his sister were musicians, professional musicians. But it was always classical music. That's what he liked. But I had a neighbor called Brian Edwards. I remember. Yes, he was called Brian Edwards. He's an American dude.
I was going to say, it doesn't sound very Spanish.
Yeah, no. He was an American dude. He was in my class actually in school as well. And his father was an army guy. So they lived in Madrid next to us, but they actually worked in Torrejon, in the airbase, in the American airbase in Madrid. They were a big family. Brian had a couple of older brothers and an older sister I think they were called Sean, Mike, and Maureen or something like that. Not that has anything to do with anything. And one day I went to his house and we snuck into one of his older brother's bedrooms. And And among the clutter of the bedroom, I saw this thing that fascinated me. It was an album cover, and on the album cover was a bunch of guys painted like I've never seen before. And when I opened the album, inside the cover, one of these guys that was painted was spewing blood all over his face. And I thought, what the hell is this? And he goes, oh, this is one of my fan bands, my brother's favorite bands, Brian said. That album was Kiss Alive 2. And I fell in love with music right there and then. I said, that's what I want to do. I hadn't even listened to the album. And then we put the album on, and it blew my mind. I had never heard anything like that in my life. I could hear the music, and I could see the album cover, and I could picture the band doing that. At that moment, I thought, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is the way I want to go. This is the music I want to listen to. You know, of course, naive that I was, I thought all rock music was guys, you know, dressed up in makeup and spewing blood out.
Well,
right?
yeah, when you were 7/8.
Yeah.
There, so.
And that changed my mind. That very moment, that's when I decided that rock and roll was for me. And I saw Ace Frehley, Kiss's guitarist, with his Gibson Les Paul, just like this one.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Gene Simmons was spewing out blood, but he was playing. I couldn't see his guitar, but I saw Ace Frehley with his guitar and his space age suit, and I thought, that's it. This is beautiful. This is me. And from then on, consciously or subconsciously, my mind just went for rock and roll, to listen to that music, and to be Ace Frehley. I wanted nothing else but to be Ace Frehley.
Wow, you know, you've never told me that story, which is quite...
No, I never told you, really.
No, I had no idea this was how you discovered Kiss, because I knew... Because would you say that Kiss is still your favorite band now, like right now?
Well, it's my favorite band. This is something I want to touch on later. It's my favorite band because it brings back all those memories.
Yeah.
Are Kiss a good band? Ooh, this is something we have to talk about.
Okay, fair enough.
But they're still the band that made me, and I think it's a common story to a lot of people in the world, my age. A lot of people my age, and in fact, a lot of famous musicians. You know, from Zakk Wylde to Diamond Darrell to a lot of people lived a similar experience. They saw Kiss for the first time, and they said, "Wow, I want that for me."
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, we shall discuss your favorite band and the Kiss later on. Then.
The Kiss legacy.
Yeah. But that's very interesting, because I feel like your story starts a lot earlier than me. Obviously, I mean, you were 7, so it was obviously a lot longer ago. But I'm talking about age-wise, because I would say I probably got passionate about music quite recently. I would probably say in the last 2, 3, 4 years, around there.
Yeah.
I think the moment I would probably say would be when we went to the Andalucía Big Festival. It was
all right,
a rock festival, it wasn't only rock, but it was a festival that was done close to our house, I guess, in Malaga. And that was my first proper time going to a concert, I guess. Well, I went to other concerts, obviously, when I was younger, but I feel like it was the first time where I properly felt it, you know? And it was the first time I went to see bands that I didn't know who they were, and I'd never heard of them. And I just loved it. I loved being there, listening to the live bands, watching them, seeing... I also found it very interesting how they were, like, basically, like, bringing down the stage and then bringing you back up between the two, between each band.
Yeah.
And I just love it. And then from there, it was, you know, more and more I was listening to more music and listening to music more profoundly. I feel like before that, I was kind of just listening to music just because I liked the sound of it. If you know what I mean. Like, I wasn't really listening to the music. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that, because I
feel
would
like
have
that's when I
thought.
started.
Yeah, I would have thought that your interest in music was earlier than that, because if you remember, we the first live band you ever saw, we actually took you on a trip to Barcelona to watch it, and that was True Blood. Not True Blood, Royal Blood. Sorry,
Yeah.
it was Royal Blood because you absolutely loved that album. What's it called? The one with Tintin Skeleton.
Well, yeah, that was their debut album. That was the self-titled Royal Blood album. And then How Did We Get So Dark? That was the tour that we went to watch them.
That's right, yeah. And we took you to Barcelona because you insisted on watching Royal Blood.
Yeah.
And that was and at that time you were what, 12, 11, 12, something like that? You were very young.
You see, but like, and I still love Royal Blood. Like, they're still they're up there. They're one of my favorite bands. I really really liked them, but I wasn't really listening to them. If you know what I mean. Like, I don't know how to explain, but I wasn't kind of listening to the lyrics, kind of processing what was going on in the song.
Yeah.
I knew that I liked what I was hearing, but I never sat down to actually analyze what was going on in the song. If you know what I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope this makes sense to everyone because I'm finding it hard to kind of.
Well, that's the thing with music, isn't it? Music is a feeling rather than, music's a thing, but it makes you feel a certain way, and sometimes it's very, very hard to describe how it makes you feel. Well, it's fun. I don't know. It's funny because I remember that trip, and I feel a little bit guilty because on the day of the concert, what we did, we made a huge mistake, which it's not the first time we made it. We made the mistake of touring the city before the concert. The concert, I don't know if you remember that. The concert was in the evening. We spent all day long, like 8 hours, just walking around the city and doing the tour and this and that. And of course, we didn't realize that you were only 11 or 12. By the time we got to the concert, you were absolutely shattered. And I know that by the time, I felt so bad because halfway you started full of adrenaline, and I think halfway through the concert, I could see that your eyes were just starting to droop and you were so tired. I think you almost fell asleep standing up.
Yeah.
Poor guy. So I felt a little bit guilty. And lesson learned. If you're watching this and you're thinking of taking your child or your son to a concert, make sure that they're nice and fresh if they're that age.
Yeah. I don't really. That's the thing. I want to watch them again because I don't really remember that trip that much, to be honest. Because it was already 8 years ago. Yeah. I remember a few select parts, and obviously there's a few videos that you recorded that helped me with my memories. Yeah. But I don't remember the whole thing. I don't remember the whole concert from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And that's why I say that I think that it was 3-4 years ago when I properly got into music.
Right, so it was the Andalucía Big Festival, yeah?
Yeah, and also because we also saw some really, really huge bands there. We saw Muse, we saw Jamiroquai. There was some, at the end of the day, some quiet legends with some huge songs, and also they do a really good show as well.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask, is there any of those bands that triggered this interest in music, or was it all of them in particular, or the mix of all of them, or what?
I think it was just the whole thing, to be honest, because we went every single night. So we went 4 days? I think it was 4 days in a row.
3, I think it was 3, but yeah.
3?
3 or 4, yeah.
Well, 3 or 4 days in a row. And each day was like a new experience because we saw a new band. It amazed me how every single band the experience was completely different. I think in the moments I didn't really realize it, but now looking back at it, and thinking about how I was feeling in that moment, I really do get that.
Mm-hmm. Right, so that was the beginning of your musical journey, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and it's a good one too, because that was a great concert. Like you say, Muse, Jamiroquai. We were supposed to watch Rage Against the Machine, but they canceled. We saw Suede, we saw Wolf Alice, we saw Biffy Clyro. Yeah, great concerts. Great concerts there. Okay, so moving forward, I know that you wanted to ask me a few questions, but I'm curious myself as well. Now we can see it. We've seen it here in the house that you're very passionate about music. You have a huge playlist going, and you're always listening to music when you're doing things that whether you're cooking, whether you're studying. Um, what is it about music that makes you tick now? What?
Wow, that's such a hard question. What?
Then let me rephrase. I'm not going to ask you what kind of music you like because we already said that you're mostly rock, 60, 70% rock, but I know you also listen to hip hop, to rap, things like that. But what is it in music that you look for? So when you're looking for a good song, a good band, what is it that you're looking for? It might be easier to answer rather than what do you like about music? It's a bit too general.
Yeah, I feel like the thing that I look for the most is, yeah, I think it's mostly something original, which obviously that I think sounds that I enjoy listening to. But I don't want to say original because it sounds like, okay, let me rephrase. Something you create your own sound, if that makes sense. You know, you once you hear a song, especially at the beginning, if you really know a band, you can tell who it is just by the first few seconds.
Yep.
Because certain bands have their own sound and their own way that they make music.
Yep.
And that's really telling. Especially at the beginning, if I'm listening to a song for the first time by a new artist, something that really grabs my attention. And of course, the thing that's the most important is how it makes me feel. If it makes me feel something, whether if it's excitement, sadness, happiness, if it makes me feel nostalgic, if it makes me feel something, then generally I will really like the song.
Right.
But if I listen to the song and I'm kind of like, I'm not really getting anything from this, the lyrics aren't, I can't,
Yeah, relate to them.
Relate to them, thank you, I couldn't find the word. And I think those are the most important things. And if it doesn't make me feel anything, then I just won't be interested in the song, or I won't like the song.
Okay, sounds good.
What about you? What?
Well, I've had more time to think about it than you have, and I've narrowed it down to a few elements. For me to like a song and a band, the very first thing they have to have is energy. I have to feel that energy shine through. That energy doesn't mean that they have to be, a super hard rock, fast band. It just has to have energy, some sort of energy. Then it has to have groove, and it has to have rhythm, right? And again, when I mean groove and rhythm, doesn't mean that I have to have drums and a super huge swing all throughout the song. It just has to have a groove and a rhythm that I can feel in my body and my bones. If it has those three elements, chances are that I will really like that song. But the main thing is energy. A song without energy, I'm very, very quick to dismiss. Right? And normally I do admit that I tend to veer towards the more electrified, rocky sounds, because it's what I've listened to all my life. Yeah. But of course, at least in my case, music is much more than the actual sum of those parts. For me, music is not just a way of life. It's also a means of therapy.
Of course.
It's and it normally is the catalyst for me to feel better when I'm feeling bad. And I start with music all the time. Music is a reflection of my mood, and my mood is a reflection of the music I listen to at any given point. Is it the same for you?
100%. 100%. Music is a huge part of my life, like we've already said. I don't know exactly how much music I listen to a day, but I would probably put it around maybe a couple of hours a day, 3 hours a day. I listen to music, whether it's when I'm cooking or while I'm playing games or while I'm walking, while I'm going to class, while I'm in the gym, whatever. In the end, I'll be listening to 2-3 hours. And depending on the song, it can make or break my mood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes, especially with the nature of my playlist, where it's completely volatile and it goes up and down, up and down, up and down.
Right.
Especially if I put it on shuffle, well, depending, because Spotify's shuffle feature is terrible. But anyways, that's for another day. Um, one song could like really get me in the mood, and then it goes to the next song. I'm like, well, I'm I love this song. I'm gonna have to skip it because I'll just be depressed for the rest of the day if
Right.
I
Yeah.
listen to
Yeah.
this before I
I'm the
get into
same.
the class.
Yeah.
You know, and
Sometimes you're just not in the mood for a song, as good as the song
yeah,
may be. Yeah.
exactly. And but then other times, it'll be the same scenario. I'll be in a really good mood, and the same song will come on, and I'm like, you know what? I really feel like listening to this song. You know,
Okay.
and
So from what I
yeah,
understand, is what you're saying is that you basically have one Spotify playlist, and that's what you listen to all the time.
most of the time, yeah,
All right. So you don't
yeah.
have. Oh, so you're not like normal people that normally, like, say, if you're going to the gym and you want a workout routine and you
Hmm.
want to, feel that pump. You don't say, okay, I have my workout playlist where all the songs are like fast and paced and they
No,
flow
no, no.
adrenaline. Seriously. Oh, that's funny. That's
I
funny because
have one
most
playlist
right.
which is called My Favorites Playlist. It has the thumbnail of I think it's a stormtrooper or it might be a clone from Star Wars, but it's like a funky looking one,
Right.
and it's got like 600 songs in it, or like 500, between 550 and
Really?
600 songs,
That many, huh?
and I just listen to those.
Right. Okay.
And yeah,
Okay.
every once in a while, I'll go through and I'll do what I call the purge, and because I've had this playlist since I was 14, so
Right. It changes.
sometimes there's songs where I'm like, dude, what is this song? You know what I mean? Before I properly listen to
Okay.
music like I do now.
That's good. That's interesting because that links to my next question.
Okay, that's good. And well, I think it might have been earlier than 14 actually. I might have created it when I was 12. Anyways, it was a very long time ago, is what I'm trying to get across. And yeah, that's all I listen to. I try to do the thing of having the rap and the thing and the whatever.
But it doesn't work.
And what I found is that generally most of the time I'm in the mood for any of the songs that I listen to. You know?
Right. Okay.
There's apart from obviously like I mentioned before, when there's a really depressing song and I'm like, I'm in a good mood right now. I don't,
Yeah. That's funny. So
And
so now the next question I wanted to ask you was exactly what you just mentioned, that you purge your playlist once in a while, and you find songs that you can't believe that you used to like. Yeah.
yeah.
So tell me about that, because I'm not like that at all. Once I like a song, I like it forever.
Well, okay.
And for me, it's exactly the opposite. Songs that I didn't used to like, I might end up liking now. But it's very, very strange that a song that I've liked, or that I liked very much one time, that I suddenly stopped liking it. So explain that to me. How is it? How is it that you purge? Is it because of your age? Because you used to be 11 the first time you heard it, and it was a Super Mario Bros. Super Mario soundtrack or something, and then you outgrew it, or what?
I mean, that's exactly it. I have to say, I haven't done a purge for a long time, because now if I go through my playlist, I mean, if you'll stop and they'll say, do you like the song? I'll be like, I mean, it's my favorite playlist. Yeah, of course I do like this song. But I remember it was like maybe, like I said, after a few months after the Andalucia Big, I went through my playlist and properly, and I was like, wow, some of these songs they're terrible. Like,
And what do you
cult
think you were?
classics, but yeah.
What do you think you were feeling and living at that time that they resonated with you then, and what's changed in you now so that they stopped resonating you and feeling and make you feel anything? Because I find that really fascinating, really interesting.
Well, I'm trying to think back to the songs and to the time. Okay, so the songs that I'm talking about, yeah, it must have been 12, 13. It was kind of like when I started listening to my own music. And when I say that, it was, obviously I've listened to music all my life, but it was just always music that you guys played at home.
Yeah.
I was getting a lot of music from my friends at the time. When we used to play Destiny 2 together, and when we used to play Fortnite and stuff, it was just songs that those people used to listen to, so I listened to them as well. And they have their place in the world, but now they're not even close to being my favorite songs, so that's why they got removed. and they do make me feel nostalgic, but because obviously they're linked to the memories of that time, not because I like the song.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So the reason you like those songs wasn't really because you thought they were good. It was mostly because they were pushed on you by other people. So they were the influencers you used to watch, you used to listen to them. So by default, you
Well, I
you
wouldn't say
adopted them.
pushed, but yeah, it was the when I wanted to branch out, it was what other people that I was close to were listening to.
Yeah.
So I listened to it as well to see what it was. I wouldn't listen to it every day now,
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so now I have a couple more questions. I'm turning this into my podcast in the end,
Yeah.
rather than you to
No,
me,
it's fine.
because I'm curious. Cliche questions.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite song and a favorite band?
Okay, so I have a favorite band.
Right. Don't tell me. Is it Queens of the Stone Age?
Yeah,
Of
it's Queens of the
course.
Stone Age. It's we've seen them twice. I mean, it's my mom's favorite band as well. They're great. I don't know if I have a favorite song of theirs, but I have a favorite album,
Right.
which I think almost every single song of that album is like incredible.
Is that like Clockwork? Is it?
Yeah, like Clockwork.
See, I know you, man. I know you.
I know you do. I know you do. I'm not- And yeah, they're my favorite band probably by far. I mean, I think pretty much I would say I love pretty much every single one of their songs. There are a few songs which I'm like, oof, this one's it's a hard pill to swallow.
Right.
But because they went through they're quite an experimental band, especially a few years ago. They're the band that makes me feel the most emotion. The lyrics, obviously not, I can't resonate to all the lyrics because especially in their latest album, they talk about divorce and stuff like that, which I can't resonate with, because I haven't gone through one and my parents aren't divorced, so.
Or not yet.
Yeah,
That's
fingers
you know what
crossed.
that's because I also like Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah, and also the song that I think might have the most memories with, and also I mean, we went to see them twice, once in Madrid and once in Fuengirola, and I mean both times were absolutely amazing.
I agree.
And also I have to include with my favorite bands, Royal Blood as well. I mean I think they're amazing as well. They've kind of turned away from their first album, which was quite a lot heavier than their recent stuff, but I still really really love their especially their latest album. I think is really really good. I don't know if you've listened to it
I have, yeah.
in its full. Oh, you have?
It's very good, yeah. It's very good.
And yeah, I love them both, but I think first is Queens of Stone Age, second is Royal Blood, and the rest I don't know.
Okay, and you've only been alive for 20 years or 19 years.
19 years, yeah.
Modern music, seeing as we're talking about our favorite music, which revolves around the rock genre. Starting, like, say, in the mid 60s, all the way to the modern era, right? So I guess that's a good time span for rock music.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite era? I mean, regardless of the fact that Queens of the Stone Age are a band of the 90s that are still current today, but leaving that aside, do you have a favorite era when it comes to rock music, to music?
I think the 90s and early 2000s is my favorite time.
Do you know why that is?
In what sense? Like why that's my favorite?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's for that. Okay, so there's the first reason is there's it's the genre that I've listened to or the time that I've listened to the most.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's Mum's favorite time period by far.
Oh yeah.
So that's the music that's playing most of the time at home. But also I like that era kind of for different reasons than Mum, I feel like.
Right. What are those?
Well, she likes it more for the grungy, doesn't she? She likes it for the Soundgarden, the Pearl Jam.
Oh yeah.
Obviously the Queens of the Stone Age. you know, all those. But I feel like I like it more for the Limp Bizkit,
All right, so new
Linkin
metal rather
Park,
than the grunge, yeah.
Slipknot, yeah,
Right, so you're a
Rage
new
Against the
metal guy.
Machine. I feel like that's what I like it most for.
That's interesting because I would have said the fact that you like '90s music and 2000s music, like you say, Mom Karen, my wife, your mom, the love of my life, is by far her favorite thing. She listens to grunge all the
Yeah.
time. You know, and our house for the last 20 years is just full of Eddie Vedders and Josh Homies everywhere, right? She likes other stuff, but that's mostly what she likes.
Yeah.
And here at home, it has to be said, we mostly listen to what mom wants to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
The main reason for that is because I like all the music she likes. She doesn't necessarily like all the music I like, right? So there's a huge chance that if I put something on, she might turn it off. Oh,
Yeah.
bless. We're not being fair. She should be here to defend herself.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought. I thought you would have inherited that grunge feeling because of listening to so much grunge at home. So I'm very happy to know that you moved on from grunge and you moved on a few years after that and like the new metal, because personally I really welcomed the transition between grunge and then new metal. I thought it was a really refreshing change when it came. And I absolutely loved things like, you know, like you say, Slipknot and Korn and Limp Bizkit and
Oh yeah.
and
Of
all
course,
those.
I didn't mention
all those-
Korn. How could I
yeah.
forget? But yeah.
Yeah, they were just refreshing. They were new. They were when grunge came out, it blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Obviously, it was for me just like any grunge person. It was a perfect time, the perfect place. I was the perfect age, and to be honest, when grunge was around, I really didn't think it was surpassable. I thought it can't get any better than this. So when I first heard Korn, I went like, wow, you know, it can get better than this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's there's been a few moments like that in my musical life where, you know, where I was very refreshed by the changes in music. The time after that was in the early 2000s when bands like Franz Ferdinand and Arctic Monkeys and those guys came out, OK Go, you know, those kind of bands suddenly toned down the level of guitaring and the aggressiveness of the music, but brought with the same energy. They kept the energy of the old grunge and the old new metal. A little bit less angry, more musical, more poetic, and more, but the energy was exactly the same, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Since then, but I keep on trying. So what's your? Yeah, tell me, go.
Now I'm just gonna add on to the since then. I mean, since then, thinking of recent bands which have caught my attention, I've been like, wow, these guys are good. Are obviously the obvious is Maneskin.
Oh yeah. How could I forget Maneskin? Great band.
And obviously, I feel like The Warning as well.
The Warning, great band. Yes. See, that was an eye opener. I discovered The Warning in two years ago. Was it when we went to Madrid, to the Mad Cool Madrid festival?
Well, it was last summer, so it was like not the summer that just passed, but it was summer of 2024.
Great musicians, a lot of energy, great grooves, great rhythm, great riffs, good stuff. Quite
and
old
also Spanish speaking, because they're Mexican. They're not
Mexican, yeah.
Spanish, but they're Spanish speaking.
Yeah.
So it was new Spanish speaking and good rock band that's also quite famous.
Yeah. Great band.
I think,
And this actually links to my next question to you, which is,
okay.
Are you satisfied? You said you have a playlist of 600 songs, 600 songs. Are you satisfied with that playlist, or are you constantly looking for new things to listen to? Are you open to new things, or you're just saying like, I got my little niche here, this is how I want to listen to?
No, I'm constantly finding things and songs to add on to it, because as much as I love those songs, even if I listen to only those songs, I'm going to get tired of it at the end of the day. And So I'm constantly looking for new songs, even if it's not by new people. There's like loads of new songs by people that I already know that I can still listen to.
Yeah.
And one thing that I think is we've grown up in different times of
Yeah.
music, in the sense of where you grew up in you buy an album or one of your friends buys an album and you listen to it, the whole thing together. Whereas I'm growing up in the streaming era where I can just search up a song. I don't have to listen to a whole album to find a song. Yeah.
I want to explore your current listening habits too, and I want to. I'm not sure if we're exceptions or not, but I know that most people I know like music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know that our close friends, right? Jess, Fred, Nick, obviously Mom, and now Violet and Zoe, young as they are also getting that way. We're all pretty passionate about music in very different ways. And then there's people that haven't really yet discovered music at all. So I'd like you to give advice to those people.
It's a very hard question. And I feel like if you're coming into music with absolutely no idea what you like, what you're gonna have to do basically is just listen to different genres. You have to kind of get an idea on what gets you moving, in a sense.
So where would they start?
Which genre?
Yeah.
Wow.
You're a rock guy. Why rock? Tell us. Just say. Because I would immediately say listen to rock because that's what I do. This is what makes me feel. This is what makes me, and most songs that aren't rock that I listen to, I think, man, if it was a rock song, it'd be much better. Or is it too hard to answer?
I don't know. Right. Because I don't know if I would tell them to go to rock straight away. So I think if someone that has never listened to music and properly, I think you should get them to listen to the biggest hits that are around now, to get them listen to something that they've probably heard in the background somewhere. That's something that they're familiar-ish to. And then from there, you can narrow it down to the genres that they like.
Sounds
Whether
good.
that's using the Spotify genre playlists or just songs that you can think of off your head. I think that's the best way to do it.
Sounds good.
Sounds
good. Right. Something I've noticed in you since the very beginning. I know, obviously, being growing up in a rock grunge household, it was natural that you would veer towards the genre of rock. But I do like the fact that you, from the very beginning, you always liked other genres, and you were always open to listen to other types of music and things like that. And the reason I admire that is because I wasn't always like that. If you cast your mind back to the last podcast we were talking about moving over to the UK, I mentioned that going to guitar school, to music school, really changed my life.
Yeah.
And one of the most significant way it changed my life was not just the way I listened to music and the way I saw music. It opened me up to bigger influences. I realized that rock wasn't a genre that just was suddenly born on its own. Mm-hmm. Everybody that plays anything or has music or makes music is influenced by something that came before it. Before that, I was a pure 100% rock guy, and I was incredibly closed to any other type of genre. Mm-hmm. Even though, even if in the back of my mind I recognized what a good song was, I just refused to openly say I like that song, right? And that's a huge handicap. That was a huge handicap for a lot of my life, and I didn't realize it was. And I wish I hadn't been. I grew up in a time back in the 80s when you liked rock, specifically when you liked heavy metal like I did. I started liking Kiss, but then I moved on to AC/DC and these 80s rock bands and heavy metal bands, Iron Maiden and all that. You were very, very niche at that time, right? Rock wasn't super mainstream. Well, no, everywhere. I mean, it was, you have that cliche, right, of the Iron Maiden, AC/DC listener, with their long hair and their tight jeans and their jean jackets with the patches, the Iron Maiden, AC/DC patches, and those guys would not even talk to somebody that liked punk. you know, as related as punk and rock are, you know, and then a punk guy would never talk to a rock guy because they're just, you know, they would just hate each other and hate the music that they all listen to. You know, it's like Iron Maiden with their harmonies, you know, punk didn't do that. Punk just played 2-minute songs, you know, and of course they wouldn't even talk to the mods and the, you know, and the people that, and the goths, people that like the Cure and the Mission and all that. And that was one of the saddest things about that era, was growing up like that, because there's just so much good music out there, and we're all playing the same 4 instruments, you know, guitar, bass, keyboards, and drums, and singing. And I lost a lot of musical culture because of that. And thankfully, I discovered it later on. And so I admire that in you. I admire the fact that you, from the very beginning, have always been open to all genres and listen to all kinds of music and recognize a good song for what it is rather than for the genre it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a happy guy now because I can listen to a song, and, you know, in fact, my latest addition to my favorites playlist was, what's it called? Apathy, whatever, the Blackpink song.
Wait, the Bruno Mars and the...
Yeah. I love that song. It's like full of energy and good grooves and good vibes. I love it. I didn't even know it was a drinking game. Why are you laughing? It is a great song.
No, yeah, I know. I just find it funny.
I haven't heard any other songs, so I'm not sure if they're that good. But that was great. That was a great song. Yeah, for you, it's just like me. It's not just a thing to enjoy, but it's also a form of therapy. Music.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Are
there any songs that come to mind that have saved you? This is, I think we had a quick chat about this at one point in one of our family lunches.
That saved me. Yeah,
songs that are that not necessarily your favorite songs, but that mean something very, very specific in your life. Or are you too young for that?
How about this? You answer your own question first, because I know you have.
Well, yeah, I do. I was gonna say that if it takes you so long to think about it, that means that you probably don't, because it would, if it was.
Yeah, I don't think I do, to be honest.
Yeah, I have a few. I have a few. Let's just say, I mean, there's hundreds of songs that immediately evoke a feeling in me, but there's some songs that are specific to very, very specific periods of my life that I can honestly say I'm almost alive because of those songs.
Right.
And I'm not gonna say they're my favorite songs, but they're songs that I could not have lived without, that I can't live without. In fact, one of them I can barely listen to without bursting into tears. Do you know which one it is?
Yeah.
Which one?
Is it the 8 Miles High by Husker Du? 8
Miles High by Husker Du, yeah.
Yeah.
That song has saved me from so much pain. When I hear...
Yeah, I can hear your voice shaking a bit.
I get too emotional. When I hear the guy shout in that song, I always thought, when I was feeling so bad in my life, I always thought, nobody can ever feel as bad as that guy feels now.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true. I've never really heard the guy from Husker Du talk about that song, but my God, the shrieks had by the end of the song, he's just shouting. And no matter how bad I felt in my life, that song always brought me up, because I thought, that kind of suffering, I don't think I'll ever feel and be alive, because, and that song really has saved me.
Yeah.
And I don't think comparable, but I think Detroit Rock City by Kiss. That's the first song I ever heard by Kiss, and that's the one that made me want to be.
Yeah.
And then there's other songs that I really, really relate to, in very specific, mostly to do with heartache and girls. But my point is that for me, that's the power of music.
Yeah.
It can save your life, and it did. It practically did for me.
The only thing that I can come close to that is that can come close to kind of that situation for me, I think is kind of when I really started listening to new metal.
Yeah.
Especially when I started listening to Slipknot, it was just after I broke up with my girlfriend at the time.
All right.
So it was the beginning of 2024.
Yeah.
I feel like because there was I don't know. I feel like there was a bit of, I don't want to say anger, but you know, it was kind of good to hear someone screaming a bit. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like I felt kind of what you were saying about Husker Du. I resonated a bit with, especially with the energy that he was speaking with. Maybe even though that the lyrics had nothing to do with my situation. You know.
This is Slipknot, you said, yeah.
Yeah.
So Corey Taylor singing his life away, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the closest thing I can get. I mean, I listen to them now, and now I kind of think about back to that time, but it's not what I listen to them for, if you know what I mean. That's why I say it's not the same.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's quite funny because now that we're talking about music here, my roommate next door, I can hear him playing his guitar.
Oh, he plays guitar?
Yeah, he does.
Electric or acoustic?
Acoustic.
Right, no, good for him. Good for him. Is he good?
From what I hear, every once in a while, he sounds quite good, yeah.
Cool. I'd like to touch on that as well. Now, when we're talking about music and what it makes us feel. I think maybe we're gonna have to cut this podcast in two.
100%. I think we've been talking for like just under an hour, I think, already. So
yeah. So what do you say? We this called the first part of the podcast, which is music and how it makes us feel, and I think we could double this podcast up and maybe next time talk about not just how it makes us feel, but actually the music itself, the songs that we like, the bands that we like, why we like them. From a generational point of view, I'm really, really curious to see what you think. You say you like Queens of the Stone Age, but Queens of the Stone Age has been around for a long, long time. I'd like you to tell me what you think of songs that I like, that I think are great, and what your take is on songs that I think are great because they mean so much to me, and I don't even know if they're good songs. I've heard them so many times. I've grown up with them, and you lose perspective, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
So I think next time we should talk about all that, and I think you wanted to talk about. I'd like to talk about listening to music as a musician versus listening to music.
As a listener.
As a listener that doesn't know what's going on musically in the background.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I still have. I write down questions that I have for my dad every single podcast, and we've gone through like half of the questions, and we've gone through the questions that were, in my mind, the quick and easy ones. The ones that would get out of the way in the first 15 minutes, and then we could talk about the rest in the next one. But
all right.
I was messaging my dad before, and I said, you know, the quick ones will probably not end up being that quick, what generally happens here, because we start talking and we start going on tangents and stuff. And so let's end this first one. Let's end this music part one. Let's call it, like you said, the music and how it makes us feel. So
perfect.
Thank you all very much for listening to this. Probably quite rambly and quite difficult to listen to podcasts. So if you listen to the whole thing, thank you very much. We hope you agree with us. And if you don't, then let us know. Like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think. And yeah, thank you very much. We hope you listen to some of the bands that we mentioned today, because I think they're very worth it. They're really worth it. And do you have anything to say before we go?
Nothing. Just thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, guys.